Hello everyone. Today I'll be teaching you mathematics. In today's session, we will be continuing with the lesson first, that is lines, shapes, lines and shadows. In today's session, you will learn to trace the face of a solid shape to get a flat shape, to identify the sides and corners of a flat shape. We will also identify the diagonal of a square and a rectangle. Now, before we start today's session, let's have a quick recap of whatever we have learned in last session. We learned to identify curved and flat faces of different solid shapes. We also learned to find out the number of curved and flat faces, to describe rolling and sliding of solid objects depending on its types of faces. Now let's move on to today's session. So today we are going to see how to trace the face of a solid shape to get a flat shape. Do you know, children, we can get or draw the flat shapes by tracing flat faces of any solid shapes. Let's see how. Here is the video, first part 1.
Children, as I said, we can get flat shapes from solid shapes by tracing its faces. So, in this video, we will see how to get flat shapes from solid shapes. And for this, we are going to use some solid shapes like cube, cuboid, cone and sphere. Here I have a shape that is cube. It's a Rubik cube. As we know, Rubik's cube or cube has 6 flat faces. So let's trace any one of its face on sheet of paper. So put flat face of this Rubik cube on the sheet of paper and draw the outline of this flat face. When we draw the outline of this flat face, children, what do we get? Let's see. The figure we got is square shape. So let's learn some properties of square. Let's see properties of square. The figure shown in this is square ABCD. In this square ABCD, A, B, C and D are the corners of the squares, whereas AB, BC, CD and DA are the 4 sides of the square. Now let's see what does mean by diagonals. Children, this is the new term for you. So diagonals of the square, it is the line joining the opposite corners of a square is called diagonals. You can see the opposite corners of the square. Children, here corner B and D, corner A and C are the opposite corners of each other, and hence AC and BD are the lines joining the opposite corner A, C and B, D respectively. And hence we can say Square has 4 equal sides. It has 4 corners. And even diagonals of the squares are equal in size. Square has 2 diagonals. Now let's see what we will get when I trace the flat face of this matchbox. It is an example of cuboid. Let's see what we will get after tracing this cuboid.
Now let's move on the second part of this video.
Trace flat face of this cuboid on sheet of paper. You will get this shape, and the shape whatever we have obtained is the rectangle, and the figure shown is a rectangle PQRS. Now let us learn some properties of rectangle. P, Q, R and S are the corners of this rectangle, whereas PQ, QR, RS and SP are the sides of the rectangle. We can observe opposite sides of this rectangle are equal in size. Here opposite sides means side QR and side PR are equal, whereas side PQ is equal to side RS. So we can say side PQ is equal to side RS, and side QR is equal to side PS. Now let us see the diagonal of a rectangle. Here in this, PR and QS are the lines joining the opposite corners P, R and QS respectively. In rectangle also, the diagonal PR is equal to diagonal QS. So we can say the rectangle has 2 diagonals which are equal in length, 4 corners and 4 sides. Out of these, 2 opposite sides are equal in length. Now let's take in shape of cylinder and trace the flat face of cylinder on sheet of paper. When we trace the flat face of this cylinder on sheet of paper, we get the flat and rounded shape. It is called circle. Now let's see the properties of a circle. As we can see, circle has no sides and no corners. Now let us now take an object in the shape of cone. We will trace the curved face of a cone on sheet of paper. When we trace the curved face of cone on sheet of paper, we will get three-sided shape, it is called triangle. Now let us see the properties of triangle. Triangle has three sides, 1, 2 and 3. It has three corners, 1, 2 and 3. Whereas triangle has no diagonals because no one corners are opposite to each other. So children, I hope you understood how to obtain the different flat shapes using the solid shapes. Thank you.
So children, from this video, we learned to identify the sides and corners of a flat shape. We also learned the different properties of a flat shapes like square, rectangle, triangle and circle. So here is the number of sides and corners are mentioned for different flat shapes. Let's see. Square has 4 sides and 4 corners. Rectangle has 4 sides and 4 corners. As I said, square has these 4 sides. These all 4 sides are equal in length. But in rectangle, the 2 opposite sides are equal in length. You can notice that these 2 opposite sides of rectangles are longer and these 2 opposite sides of rectangles are shorter. Rectangle has 4 corners. Circle has 0 sides and 0 corners. Whereas triangle has 3 sides and 3 corners. Children, we also learn to identify the diagonals of a square and rectangle. So as I said, what does mean by diagonal? Diagonal is the line joining the opposite corners of a shape such as a square or a rectangle is called as a diagonal. For example, square ABCD and rectangle PQRS. Let's see the square ABCD and here is the rectangle PQRS. In this, the opposite corners. Which are the opposite corners of square ABCD? So, the corner A and corner D are opposite to each other, whereas corner B and C are opposite to each other. When the line joining this corner AD, it is called diagonal. Even when the line joining the corners BC, it is also known as diagonal. Let's see the rectangle PQRS. In this, you can see the corner P and C, P and S are the opposite of each other, and corner Q, R are the opposite corners. When the line joins the corner PS, it is called as diagonal. And when the line joins the corner QR, it is also known as diagonal. So, square ABCD and rectangle PQRS has diagonal AD, diagonal BC, and diagonal PS and diagonal QR respectively. Children, we also seen the diagonals of squares are equal in size. So we can say diagonal AD is equals to diagonal BC. Whereas in rectangle, diagonals are also equal in size. Hence we can say diagonal PS is equals to diagonal QR. Now let's have a quick summary whatever we have learned today. We learned to obtain flat shapes by tracing the flat faces of solid shapes. We also learned the properties of flat shapes like square, rectangle, triangle and circle. We also learned to identify the sides and corners of a flat shape. It's a task time. Children, take some solid shape objects and trace them on sheet of paper. And you have to discuss their shapes, sides, corners and diagonals. Here are the pages from Term 1 Book A. You can refer and solve the exercises given on page number 13, 14. Thank you.